this setup's nice. You dialed up 68-degree weather for us. That's nice. We're right outside your office. We're on the balcony. There's a lot of talk outside this building, a lot of pressure, a lot of do or die, a lot of all this. Is your mind really the same place right now it always would be this time of camp? None of that stuff matters?
Well, it doesn't to me, and it doesn't in this building. I truly believe that. The problem is I got to have a bunch of interviews and I got to answer a lot more questions because we recognize there's more talk going on nationally, which we've earned. We've earned that, right? So, but yeah, in the building, the expectations around here are always really high. I mean, last year, we finished a game before the national championship and people were pissed. Right? Like most places would die to have that type of season. So that's always the expectation here at Penn State.
When you guys came out of the game last year, semifinal game, it was kind of an uncharted territory, but it was kind of weird because we were in a playoff that we had never seen before.
Yeah.
So, you got many different ways that you can look at that. But when you came out of that, dust settled, how did you grade last year in totality?
Yeah, I think when you take everything into consideration, really good. Feel really good about the season. You just feel like the way it ended, we had some opportunities, especially early in the game, that we didn't capitalize on that could have changed the complexion of the game. So that's what frustrates you. You look back and you're like, God, we really had an opportunity, to capitalize and really, make a run. So that's where it kind of leaves you with a bad taste in your mouth, and it's tremendous motivation for the offseason.
And then you come around, you had spring, you're in fall camp now, you're in the middle of fall camp.
Yep.
Some places they're having to overhaul everything. That's pretty unenviable position. You don't have to do that. You got a lot of proven commodities that are looking to get 1% better. You got a lot of position unit groups. We're looking to get at least 1% better. When you start to grade, or even if you can, when you see a team a little over halfway through fall camp, what are some of the indicators you're looking for to say, there's that 1% I'm looking for? Or do you just have to see it on the field in the fall?
Yeah. So a little bit back to your previous question, right? Like last year, one of the things that wasn't talked about a whole lot, brand new offense coordinator, brand new defense coordinator, brand new special teams coordinator. This year, we're going into year 2 with Andy Kotelnicki. I think that's going to be significant for the players and for him. Same thing with Justin Lustig, our special teams coordinator. The challenge, obviously, is with Coach Knowles, right? Arguably the best defense coordinator in college football over the last couple of years, but it's year 1. So how do we speed up that maturation process? What I've seen so far, I think we're ahead on offense and special teams, as you would imagine, right? The question that everybody's talking about is wideout. The 3 wideouts that we brought in, from the transfer portal, as well as the guys that we already had in the program, I think we've improved there. I think we've taken a step in the right direction. We should have one of the better O-lines in the country. We should have the best quarterback in college football. We've got an argument for the best running back room in the country. And you could go through the defense and say the same thing with Zane Durant and Deny on the defensive line, and Tony Rojas and Dom DeLuca and Zaki and A.J. Harris in the defensive backfield. We got a lot of pieces. The thing that no one wants to talk about, the holder, the snapper, the kicker, the punter, they're all back. So there's just a lot of experienced guys that understand what it takes to win at this level.
You didn't mention, or maybe you kind of glanced past tight end room. There's a really significant backfill that happens there. I was talking to someone here earlier today. You notice at Georgia when they had Brock Bowers. When they lost Brock Bowers, there was this like doom and gloom talk because they lost Brock Bowers. Well, maybe the flip side of that coin is theoretically you could have had the second best tight end in the country behind him, but you don't know who that is because of Brock Bowers. What kind of tight end depth do you have here? How much do you trust?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because I didn't mean to skip over those guys. You look what we have done really over the last 5 years. We've had a second-round draft choice. We've had a first-round draft choice. We've had draft choice after draft choice for the last 5 years. We're back in a similar situation. Khalil Dinkins will be another draft choice. Luke Reynolds is a guy that everybody was excited about who played for us as a true freshman last year. Andrew Rapplier got hurt and missed the season, was going to be our 3rd tight end last year. So that room is rolling. We've done a really good job of recruiting. We've done a really good job of development. Ty Howell is a letterman here, was a captain here at Penn State, has done a great job recruiting and developing that position. That's going to continue to roll. And from what I've seen with the guys that we brought in this year, it's going to continue.
You've coached for a long time, and yet I assume you believe you never stop growing, you never stop developing. What are some of the things, I mean, as personal as you're comfortable getting, what are some of the things that you know in the last year, I've specifically worked on these to get myself better?
Yeah, so a couple things, right? You're constantly studying the game. You're constantly talking to people about things that you handled the previous year. You're talking about how do we go into this season. I'm on a walk the other day. I pick up the phone and call Coach Saban, right? Like, you've been in this situation before. He had really good feedback. As you can imagine, I've watched all his stuff. We've had a number of conversations. We were in the league together. But that was good. A lot of times it's not that they're going to tell you anything different. They're reinforcing what you already know, and there's value in that, right? And then I think the other thing is leaning in. Stan Drayton has been a part of, I think, 3 national championships, right? Jim Knowles just had a national championship last year. So I'm trying to encourage Jim to say, look, like, I just was a part of it. This is what it looks like. What we just did at practice yesterday, that's what it looks like. This doesn't. This is not aligned with championship level football. So I'm encouraging them to talk about it because we want to grow from their experiences as well.
I think there's a lot of fascination on the outside about the stuff that we'll never get to see. We'll never get to sit in a meeting room in some of the first days of Jim Knowles being in this building. I mean, we know what you say in a press conference, and we've watched him before, but like the granular, let's raise the hood and get every bit of information we can. What have you seen from us? What do you know? What do you think differently than maybe philosophically what we think? As generic as you have to keep it, like, what is that process like?
Yeah, it's interesting because in our team meetings, I let the coordinators get up and speak as well because I want everybody to hear what the defense is being taught, what the offense is being taught, because you can learn a lot that way across the ball. You know, it's funny, Andy gets up, Andy Kotelnicki, you've been around him, he's got a bunch of personality. He's up there, he's had like 4 cups of coffee, he's talking 1,000 miles an hour. Then Jim gets up, and it takes him 3 minutes to even start talking. And then he's whispering, and everybody's kind of leaning in like the old E.F. Hutton commercials. And he's a little bit kind of a mad scientist, and he kind of looks at things from a different lens, which I love, right? You don't want a whole bunch of people in the building that view the game the same way. And I think that's been great. I think there's really good balance between myself, the coordinators, their experiences. It's been valuable, but they're fascinating. Andy and Jim couldn't be any more different in terms of how they go about things. And then Lustig is probably closer to me personality-wise, to be honest with you.
Are there any personality traits from your staff that you see that's rubbed off on me a little bit?
Off on me?
Yes.
Yeah, because I respect, really smart people. I respect football people that live this. So, I'm in there taking notes just like the players. Jim says something I like, I want to double down on, so I'll reinforce it. Hey, what Jim just said is what we say, within the program all the time. What I say all the time, just a different way of saying it. So Jim's a unique guy, and I think we've done a really good job of crossover. So when we have the opportunity in the spring, when the offense is meeting and the defense is lifting, I have those guys sit across the ball in those meetings. Coaches don't do that enough. You're the D-line coach, and you go to a clinic and you just listen to D-line coaches, right? Go listen to what the O-line coach is teaching. So this stuff has been really valuable, and this is one of the better scenarios really since I was at Kansas State as the offensive coordinator and Raheem Morris was the defensive coordinator, and we would script together. He'd say, look, I'm going to play, cover 3 right here. I want 4 verticals to stress my defense. And we would script on what I wanted to be challenged, what he wanted to be challenged. And Jim and Andy have really developed that type of relationship. And I think that's when you have a chance to really grow because they're worried about Penn State's development, not the defense or the offense.
Go back to what your mentality was about your team coming out of spring, and then we fast forward a few months, you're kind of a little bit over halfway through fall camp. Are there any things that have surprised you, maybe plus side, negative side, that you think now that you thought differently in the spring?
Not really. I would say that when you ask that question, probably the thing that jumps out in my mind is one of the things we did different is we were much more aggressive this spring with installation. We were much more aggressive in the summer with installation. saying, look, let's put a lot on them. The mistakes can be made now, and then that would allow us to go in to the summer. Now this is the third time they've been through it. And we can decide, do we need to take some of the stuff out? Is it too much? Is it not enough? Those types of things. But I think that's been helpful, being really aggressive and putting probably more on their plate this summer, and our OTAs and things like that we're allowed to have in college football. That's been a different approach, which I think was valuable. The other thing is, when we're installing on offense and defense, we're usually pretty vanilla in the first couple days. Well, Andy's, as you know, a mass shift in motion guy. Well, most defensive coordinators, when they're installing, they don't want that. Jim wanted that.
Yep.
So those philosophies, I think, have been helpful in terms of just speeding up the maturation process of our team.
Maturation process, physically and mentally, with Drew Aller. The way last year ended, man, that wrecked some people mentally. And I assume it took him at least a few days to get over. But in totality, like when you look at him, what were the specific areas you said, you got to get better here? And then how has he responded to it?
Yeah, I think he didn't have any, like some of these guys, they have significant areas of weakness that you need to work on. He really didn't have that. He has taken significant steps every year in terms of leadership, in terms of understanding of the offense, in terms of chemistry with the wide receivers, with all of it. He's taken steps. And I think it's been significant. He went from 242 pounds to about 235. He's moving better. He's more athletic. But I think you look at his touchdown interception ratio, about as good as anybody in the country over his career. But there's times where we need him to be aggressive and push the ball down the field. We have to call the game that way a little bit more, and we need him to do it. But it's a fine line.
Yeah.
Because then now you throw a couple more picks, and everybody's complaining about that. So it's a balance between those two things as an offense, calling the game in a way where we're going to push the ball down the field, having the guys at the receiver position to make those plays, and then Drew to be comfortable in letting it rip.
Personally, I'm so excited with the wide receiver guys that you picked up. And, I don't know how much you show week 1, week 2. We're eventually going to get to a spot, though, where the whole country's eyes are on you.
That's right.
Oregon comes in here. You got Big Ten play coming up. How comfortable are you with the development and production of that unit to be able to turn it loose to win games whenever you need to?
Well, it's going to be a big key to our success, right? That's why we were aggressive in the transfer portal. I think – myself and Drew, obviously, when you lose a game like that, there's a ton of criticism, and the head coach and the quarterback are going to get it, right? That's the nature of the job. But I also think there's an aspect where I watch ESPN, and it's a highlight, and a quarterback throws the ball deep in double coverage, and a receiver goes up and snatches it. Everybody's like, what an unbelievable play. It wasn't really a great play. The receiver made a great play. We need more of that. We got it from Tyler Warren last year at tight end position, so we kept feeding him. But we need to make defenses defend a 53 and a third, the whole width of the field, the length of the field, and more than just one threat. We got to be able to spread the ball around so people can't say to themselves, if we stop this tight end or the running game, then they're going to have a hard time beating us. And that's going to be really important that we establish that in the first 3 games.
You were talking about the pressure, the criticism that comes, it's either glory or it's castigation depending on the outcomes of those close games. They used to say about Kirby for a long time, can't win the big one, can't win the big one. Then he won the big one. And then they said it about Ryan Day, can't win the big one, can't win the big one. He won the big one. The big one's just a national championship. So then they move on. All right, who's next? James Franklin's over here. Brian Kelly's over here. You get compensated a lot. You got good resources here, so no one feels sorry for you. Have you ever thought it's fair, it's unfair, or do you not care?
Well, what I think is that nobody else cares, so I'm not going to spend any time on it. I think at the end of the day, when you took the Penn State job, you knew what came with it. When you decided to be the quarterback at Penn State, this is what comes with it. You don't fill up a 107,000-seat stadium with normal people. Fans is short for fanatics, right? Like you drove around this town. Where do they all come from, right? So that's what comes with it, and we embrace that. The best part about all of it, we're in total control.
Right.
We're in total control to change the narrative. But I love that, these are the conversations we're in. That's why I came to Penn State.
James Franklin, we appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.